But what I realized is they basically had suicided because they were so insular. They weren't open. So I got involved with helping the Cacophony Society get started, and I decided that we would be open. We would do things like the Suicide Club, but we would be open and everyone was welcome. We did, every month we put out a newsletter, and we did monthly events. Anybody could list an event in the newsletter. Our motto was, the Cacophony Society is a randomly gathered network of free spirits united in the pursuit of experiences beyond the pale of mainstream society. You may already be a member. Cacophony developed numerous traditions which later fed into Burning Man. Everyone was included. You had permission to be or try anything. Events should be free. You took responsibility for your actions. You cleaned up after yourself, and we used fake names, which was a precursor to playa names. Often we would use names because some of the things we listed in the newsletter, we didn't want people to know who was behind it. A more direct history of Burning Man goes back to the 1970s and early 1980s. There was a woman named Mary Grauberger who would go to Baker Beach in San Francisco, and she would build sculptures out of driftwood. And then in the evening, her and her friends would torch them. Larry attended many of these events. In 1986, Mary stopped doing these events on the solstice, and Larry found himself missing it. So he called up a friend, Jerry James, and he said, hey, let's build a man and burn him on the beach. Now, Larry at the time was a gardener. He didn't really like gardening, but he had a pickup truck. He liked to build things like trellises. He wasn't a particularly good carpenter either, but he had a friend named Jerry James who was a good carpenter. So they cobbled together this 8-foot tall figure, kind of resembled a man, somewhere between a man and a grasshopper, I think. And they brought it down to Baker Beach on the solstice. They invited their girlfriends, their sons, and their ex-wives. So it was kind of like a family picnic. So they didn't quite know how to make a fire, so they doused it with gasoline, and of course it went up like a second sun. And this caused a lot of attention on the beach, so there were maybe a dozen people gathered around it. And that was the first burn. It really wasn't much more than a family picnic.
By our community, and not, for example, by venues that want to have burner theme nights and encourage people to dress up and charge an admission and sell lots of drinks. We don't. There's also an intellectual property protection.
It's really important that if you want your art to be placed in a public environment, that you have to have it engineered before you build it. And fortunately, that means raising additional money in your pre-planning budget, but in the long run, you'll be able to possibly sell the art and or have it up for temporary placement, and then maybe a city will actually buy the sculpture. And so what's happened is that because Burning Man's become bigger and bigger and people actually go out and actually look at the art and are interested in placing that art as temporary sculptures or maybe even permanent sculptures, then when they come back and they ask the artist, do you have engineering drawings for this? Many of the artists don't, because originally we all expected it to just last for 1 week in Black Rock City.
And when you say engineering drawings, what do you mean?
Well, that you have to hire a licensed engineer to make sure that the building is structurally adequate to building standards in any city. In Black Rock City, there's certain engineering standards, wind calculations, to make sure that the project doesn't fall down. If it's a certain height, it has to have, again, structural engineering so that if there's multiple people climbing it, that they're not going to hurt themselves. So it really depends on the structure.
My name is a.ka Wisnowski, and I'm at the Multi-Regional Summit today watching ground squirrels run past and things like that. But back in my focus, we learned that we would be eligible as a Multi-Regional Summit group to award funds through Burners Without Borders to our community. That meant that money that Burning Man had made available would be put back into our community through proposals from our community, but also awarded by a committee formed here from our community, which is really, I mean, it's a terrific cycle. So not only was it an opportunity to fund projects that will happen within the multi-regional area, but to learn for ourselves much more about the process of proposing for funding and for awarding and managing, bringing out the leadership that will make it happen within our community. So very, very rewarding process.
All right, tell me about the plan.
So first setup of the carport kitchen of Comfy Cozy Lounge. We're setting up to do a paint job. We're gonna do 3 different colors of the neon pink, neon green, neon purple, going over in a diagonal set fashion. And when all these hit the polka dots all lit around, we're gonna go with a little celery stick and make it look like such with a little black paint.
What is my camp doing? We're being interactive. We do all this interactivity, but how much of it actually happens within my camp, right? If you're dressing up as bees and going out running around the city, it's totally awesome, but are those bees coming back? Are you having some sort of bee-related party in your camp, right? You have an art car, and your art car goes out and does things, and that's wonderful, right? And actually placement does have consideration for art cars, but is your art car always gone? Is your art car offering rides to the community around you? Is the art car having a party or some sort of interactivity within your camp before it's heading out for the evening and do its things? So thinking about those things, it's very important to think, what am I doing within the space that Burning Man is setting up for me within the city to make sure that street or that avenue or that Esplanade is actually being interactive and friendly and accommodating to all the burners and everybody, all the participants that come by.
We ended up eliminating that one as well, so we came down to 2 proposals in the end, and even though the merits are very strong for both, it was decided that one should receive 2/3 of the funding and the other just 1/3. So Elk Creek Community Art Walk Park, something like that, Art Park, is receiving $1,000 funding, and the Morris Burner Hotel is receiving $500 for their teaching garden. So congratulations to both. So Sunshine, tell me, how do I say that properly? The Elk Creek Community Art Walk. Okay, so come to me. I'll dose it for you. A lot of fun. Congratulations. Thank you very, very much to those who involved themselves in the process.
Yeah, and then he's texting me, bring Jack.
I was just going to say, I thought, I hope he's got something to do there.
One more. 1, 2,
Hey, what's over there? What?
What's that?
Dad shoots the back of the head of all these people.